Thank you very much, Chairperson of the Board of SAMSA, for the introduction. Let me acknowledge you, the Program Director, Ms. Lulaba Mtsengu, President of the World Maritime University, Dr. Cleopatra Dumbia Henry, SAMSA Board Chairperson. Thank you for introducing me. SAMSA Board members that are present here today. DDG for Maritime Branch in the Department of Transport, Mr. Mtunzi Madia, Acting CEO of SAMSA, Ms. Zama Tongo, senior officials across 3 spheres of government, and I would want to acknowledge the presence of the representative of the Premier in the Western Cape, Managing Director of MSC Cruise South Africa, Mr. Ross Block, TNPA Chief Harbour Master Captain Rufus Likala, our distinguished international speakers and local panelists, women representative organizations, WISTA and WIMESA, esteemed guests, especially our seafarers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Distinguished participants, it is with great appreciation that I form part of this very important and long-awaited seminar on gender-based violence and femicide at sea. I'm grateful because eventually we are getting an opportunity and a platform within the maritime sector to discuss the atrocious violations sometimes women experience at sea. I believe that this is the beginning of many urgently required interventions to address the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide at sea. We congratulate the South African Maritime Safety Authority, SAMSA, for hosting this important seminar. The matters we will be discussing are not exciting, but that ultimately we are facing them head on because they exist is exciting. To the guests who are in South Africa for the very first time, we warmly welcome you, and to our returning guests, please feel at home. We implore you to make time to sightsee some of our international renowned landmarks and tourist attractions like our famous Table Mountain, history-rich Robben Island, Cape Point, and other fascinating and adventurous sites in this city of Cape Town, which we also refer to as the Mother City. Program Director, the UN Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030, has a target to eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls in the public and private spheres, including trafficking and sexual and other types of exploitations. In 1991, Global Leadership Institute initiated the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign. This has become an international campaign that has been adopted by the UN and is observed globally. The 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign is now a United Nations campaign which takes place annually from the 25th of November, which is the International Day of No Violence Against Women, to the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day. The 16 Days campaign forms the epicenter of South African government's comprehensive 365 days of activism for no violence against women and children. It is during this period that government, working with civil society, private sector, and other national and international social partners, heighten awareness and education through a series of community and sector dialogue and activities to foster a collaboration effort in dealing with the scourge. Gender-based violence is a term used to describe violence of various types directed at an individual based on their gender. This violence can include verbal, emotional, sexual, physical, psychological, mental, and economic harm inflicted in public or in private, and includes threats of violence, coercion, and manipulation. The violence can also manifest in other ways, such as through unfair discrimination, shaming related to physique, looks, gender role, and/or behavior. The United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women also known as UN Women, highlight that gender-based violence was already a global crisis before the pandemic, which got intensified during the high-level lockdowns restrictions of COVID-19 pandemic. It was during the global lockdowns that many women got isolated from social contact and support networks, ending up being trapped with their abusers. Increased economic challenges has further limited many women's ability to leave abusive situations at home and at work. At the same time, the pandemic has exposed women leaders to backlash, leading to threats and abuse and harassment both online and offline. Violence against women leaders can also prevent them from carrying out their duties regardless of their positions they hold. According to the United Nations Population Fund, gender-based violence is one of the most prevalent human rights violations in the world. It knows no social, economic, or national boundaries. Globally, it is estimated that 1 in every 3 women will experience physical or sexual abuse in her lifetime. Program Director, on the 25th September 2019, the World Bank brief stated that gender-based violence and femicide is indeed a global pandemic. It estimated that about 35% of women worldwide have experienced either physical and or sexual intimate partner violence. 7% of women have been sexually assaulted by someone other than a partner. Gender-based violence and femicide undermines the health, dignity, security, and autonomy of its victims, yet it remains shrouded in a culture of silence. In 2021, Statistics South Africa released a report on crimes against women in South Africa, indicating that 1 in 5 women had experienced physical violence by a partner. Program Director, the Seafarer Workforce Report, published in 2021 by the Baltic and International Maritime Council and International Chamber of Shipping, reports that 1.89 million seafarers are currently operating over about 74,000 vessels in the global merchant ship fleet. The latest statistics show that there is a positive trend in gender balance, with an estimated 24,059 women serving as seafarers, a percentage increase of 45.8% compared with the 2015 report. Certified seafarers, in fact, the percentage of female STCI certified seafarers is estimated to be 1.28% of the global seafarer workforce. And it appears that there has been a significant rise in the number of female STCW certified ratings compared to STCW certified female officers. The numbers indicate that though there is improvement in the number of women entering the industry, the progression is still slow. It is clear that there is still a big room for improvement. There are many programs internationally to advance women interest and participation within the maritime industry. One of them being the IMO's gender program, which was established back in 1988. IMO appreciated that it was not easy for this historically male-dominated industry to transform and attain gender parity. The aim of the program was to help the industry move forward and support women to achieve a representation that is in keeping with 21st century expectations. Also, the IMO World Maritime University, through the leadership of Dr. Julia Henry, have uniquely contributed, amongst others, by ensuring that in the university's academic education and research in maritime, as well as in ocean science, gender equality is promoted. Ladies and gentlemen, in an effort to drive the implementation of gender parity, in 2014, the International Maritime Health Association, International Seafarers Welfare and Assistance Network, International Transport Federation, and Seafarers Hospital Society conducted a joint survey on women seafarers' health and welfare. The survey report revealed that 17% of women seafarers reported sexual harassment as an issue. The survey report further indicates that with women with less power in the workplace were more vulnerable to sexual harassment. This basically means that cadets and women at the beginning of their careers are more vulnerable. In October 2021, the world learned with shock when CNN reported that an international shipping giant had suspended 5 crew members and launched an investigation in the wake of an explosive blog post from a female student who said she was raped in 2019 on one of the company's ships when she was 19 years old. The story of the 19-year-old female cadet in the USA who had experienced sexual assault at the hands of a 60-year-old officer sparked what was then termed a Me Too movement, as many other people came forward. The CNA report stated that she had confided to a fellow cadet on board about the alleged rape. However, she didn't officially report it at the time. Later, when she had signed off the vessel, she learned of at least 9 other female students who had been raped during their CA. This prompted her to speak out. Also, a public online survey conducted jointly by WISTA International, Anglo-Eastern International Seafarer Welfare and Assistance Network, and International Chamber of Shipping revealed shocking figures in gender-based discrimination against women on board harassment and bullying. The respondents were 1,128 women seafarers from 78 countries, with 90% of them working in the cruise line industry. The survey found that 60% of women reported encountering gender-based discrimination on board. 66% of the respondents concurred that their male employees had turned to harassing and intimidating female co-workers. 25% reported that in the shipping sector, physical and sexual harassment is common, occurring on board and involving intrusions on their privacy. Ladies and gentlemen, South African seafarers are not immune to this pandemic that is ravaging the maritime industry worldwide. In South Africa, we are still haunted by the death of the cadet Miss Akona Geveza, whose lifeless body was found off the coast of Croatia on the 24th of June 2010 after having reported a case of sexual harassment. It is a case that devastated not only the family, but the maritime industry in South Africa, and had many young women questioning if this was a career for them. In the minds of many South African seafarers, the case remains unsolved, as her death was declared a suicide. However, this is not meant to open all wounds to the family. This horrific incident was widely reported in the country by the media houses, with many young men and women coming forward with their own stories of sexual harassment at the hands of senior officers on board. The incident and other related cases of sexual harassment that were reported at the time threatened the country's ambition of being a key player in the maritime industry and promotion of the maritime industry, including gender parity. Reading these horrific stories gives an impression that the senior officers or the management on board, meant to mentor and guide the young seafarers, are becoming the perpetrators. This in no way should paint some of the good men and women of the sea with one brush. We have, over the years, guided and aided the young women and boys through stormy seas during their development. Over the years, the cases reported to SAMSA have come in dribs and drabs and might give a false impression of an industry that has cleansed itself. Unfortunately, we continue to hear stories being told by young women privately of difficult situations they find themselves under during their stint in the cadetship program. It seems like the young women are afraid to report these cases of sexual harassment for fear of being victimized and being kicked out of the cadetship program. In the last 3 years, there has been 2 cases reported to SAMSA that led to the victims seeking psychological help, and both cases involved senior officers on board. One case was of sexual harassment, with a senior officer making unwelcome sexual advances to a junior seafarer. It was alleged that the master was condoning the act. leaving the young seafarer with no protection on board. The case was never fully concluded, as one of the witnesses left the country before the case was concluded. The seafarer received psychological support from the company and SAMSA. Another case involved a woman cadet who was allegedly coerced into having sex with a senior officer on board in return for signing her training record book. While able to share more details on this case, as it is still undergoing legal processes. I also can equally testify. I also received a message from one of our seafarers relating a horrendous rape case on board. Unfortunately, she sent that to my cell phone, and I lost my mobile phone with the details. I've been hoping that she will write to me again so we can follow up her case. These are scary and worrying cases that call for all of us in the industry to take a stand and fight against gender-based violence and femicide and all sorts of gender discrimination. If we are to encourage our women to take up the careers at sea, we have to do this. Program Director, since the birth of democracy in South Africa, the government has been firm and deliberate in putting together laws and policies that ensure equality, protection of women's rights, and opening opportunities for women in employment and other economic activities. The fruits of these initiatives can also be seen in the maritime industry, with women making up a significant number in the intakes for the cadetship programs every year. With all the challenges over the years, with placement of cadets, which is likely due to lack of adequate tonnage in our ship register, this country has over the years built an impressive cadre of women seafarers. Some of them now find themselves in leadership positions on board and ashore. In the last cadetship intake in 2019, SAMI reported that women made up to 26% of the cohort. If we look back at some of the milestones, we will remember during the 2010 October Transport Month, the all-female crew that undertook a sea voyage from the port of Cape Town to the port of Durban. The purpose of this all-women manned vessel, the SAA Agalas, was to showcase the ground covered on gender transformation in the maritime industry. We believe that the more women join in the sector, we will be able to diversify and relook at our policies, legislation, and instruments to be inclusive of conducive work conditions where women can be protected at all times on board. Program Director, in mainstreaming the subject of gender-based violence and femicide and destigmatizing this matter in the maritime industry, the Department of Transport and South African Maritime Safety Authority have prioritized this issue in their 2022-2023 financial year, hence this important seminar, as the chairperson of the board said. South Africa has been nominated by the IMO as one of government representatives alongside the Bahamas, France, Panama, Philippines, Sweden, Thailand, and US to serve on the IMO Joint Tripartite Working Group to identify and address seafarers' issues and the human elements for the task concerning guidelines and possibly regulations for bullying and harassment in the maritime sector, including sexual assault and sexual harassment. This seminar could not have come at the right time, as for once the maritime world, the ILO and IMO, are joining hands to confront this pandemic that is ravaging the industry. The maritime industry for far too long seemed not compatible to discuss issues of sexual harassment and assault and prefers to lump everything under harassment and bullying. When this happens, we will be able to localize and domesticate interventions relevant to each country under the guidance of the IMO standards. Our South African government condemns any form of violence against women and children. Gender-based violence and femicide does not discriminate. Any person of any race, age, sexual orientation, religion, or gender can be a victim of or perpetrator of gender-based violence and femicide. We have to challenge the beliefs and behaviors that excuse, justify, or condone violence and inequality. The normalization of violence against women, gender stereotypes and roles condoning of violence against women and sexist jokes and remarks about women should be seen as something that should never happen. All of us in the maritime sector must play our part by ensuring that we take action by reporting abusers. We must all support the interventions of IMO and ILO in fighting the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. We must ensure that our justice system is able to deal with crimes of gender-based violence and femicide at sea. We must create support structures for gender-based violence and femicide victims and establish institutional mechanisms within the maritime sector to assist rehabilitation of victims. As the listening democratic government, we are here to engage and listen to you, our seafarers and maritime industry experts, talk about the issues that you face and consider possible interventions that are required to address all these challenges. I will end with a quote from the late President of the Republic of South Africa, Dr. Nelson Mandela. He said, and I quote him, "For every woman and a girl violently attacked, we reduce our humanity. For every woman forced into unprotected sex or protected sex because men demanded, we destroy dignity and pride. For every woman who has to sell her life for sex, we condemn her to a lifetime in prison. For every moment we remain silent, we conspire against our women," unquote. With these words, I wish you all a successful seminar that we hope will be a watershed moment for the industry and will come out with tangible solutions. I wish strength to all those seafarers who will be sharing with us their journey. I thank you very much.